All right, guys, welcome to Leave It on the Court. It's your boy Mustafa.
It's Corey Randall.
And today, the topic of the discussion will be will the Phoenix Suns win the championship this year? My opinion and my take on it. I believe there's a possibility for that because they are a tough team with two bona fide players in Chris Paul and Devin Booker. We all seen what Chris Paul has done in this past series with the Denver Nuggets. Even though they've been without Jamal Murray, but he's been sensational. He's putting the world on notice, letting everybody know that he is here. He's still here. He has that point guard position on his fingertips, and he's ready for anybody and anything. I also believe Phoenix Suns as a team, they're a tougher team than people give them credit for. And I just really don't see a lot of teams, I don't really see a lot of teams beating them in a 7-game series. So I'm not too sure what your take on it, but take the floor on this one.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask me this question, like, in the last off season or something like that, like, I would have been like, I don't know, because my prediction was they were gonna be, in the Western Conference, be probably like in the middle of the pack, probably like fifth or something like that. But as the season went on and how they were playing, especially just because they're a young team all around, they showed out, and then in the playoffs, just very, very impressive. So I definitely think there's a high possibility that they can win the championship. But just looking at their team, just them compared to everybody else. First of all, they're like first in defense in a lot of categories in the playoffs. They're first in points allowed, opponents' field goals made per game, 3-point percentage, and opponent field goal percentage, which is crazy. They just hold people. They hold people like under 100 points or something like that. And you have the leadership and playmaking ability and defense in Chris Paul, and he's helped really motivate all these guys. The depth on the team is like second to none compared to other people. You got all these guys who fulfill their roles every game and are consistent, whether it's Cameron Payne, Jay Crowder, Mikal Bridges is a beast. They're gonna be definitely a team to reckon with going into the not only Western Conference Finals, but if they can get past that as well, get to the finals.
Yeah, definitely. Because honestly, I don't see no team really standing a chance with them, because you got the Utah Jazz and the Clippers series. That's to be determined with. But it's just, even if like a situation with the Clippers have a lot of trouble, getting their two superstars to play together on a nightly basis.
Yeah.
Most of the time, you have Kawhi Leonard, carrying the load, and Paul George, he give you one game here, give you another game there. It's like you never get that real, like, all right, this is my performance for the series. This is my performance for the playoffs. So, and that's really kind of hurt that team in some ways. When they needed Paul George the most, playoff P to show up.
Yeah, and when you look at the Suns, they're like on it's almost like they're on like a rowing team. Like everybody's on the same string. You don't have anybody veering off. Like everybody has their mind on the same path, and you don't see people pointing a finger, blaming each other. They look like they're having fun. They like each other and everything. As far as the what matchup do you think would be worse for the Suns in the Western Conference playoffs? Them having to play Clippers or having to play Utah? Like, who you think would be more of a challenge?
As far as matchup goes, because Utah is more of a complete team. It's like when it comes to team overall.
Mm-hmm.
Because Utah has a multitude of weapons. You got not only Donovan Mitchell, you got Bogdanovich. You got obviously Rudy Gobert. You have
Clarkson.
you got a lot of guys, you got a lot of weapons, you got Ingles, different guys that can, beat you in different ways. So a lot like, the Phoenix Suns, they have a lot of guys coming off the bench that are aggressive, that know their roles, that are not afraid, that they're just not going to beat themselves. They're going to do what they have to do for their team to win. So I feel like that kind of matchup, it evens the playing field a little bit more. Clippers at times have trouble with their bench, and the thing is too is sometimes Ty Lue his rotations are not always on point, so that's another thing that can hurt them.
Yeah, I think for the thing with them playing Utah, that would also be more of a challenge, really only for me if Mike Conley's going to be playing. If Mike Conley's going to be out, because Mike Conley's fast as hell, he can put a lot of pressure on the defense. But if he's not there, it's going to be easier to kind of crowd Donovan Mitchell. And then you got a bunch of people that can switch off defensively. Torrey Craig, Jay Crowder, all these different guys that can do that. But I just feel like, I don't know, Ayton is he's going to be like a huge mismatch against these other guys, because except for Rudy Gobert, it may be more of a challenge. But
that's my question though. For the Clippers, if they were to play against Ayton, who's gonna really check him?
Clippers.
Because that's a problem. Then you got Zubac. You really don't want to have him out there for too long, because there's a matchup issue between Chris Paul and Devin Booker every time that in a pick and roll situation, and that's been a very big issue for them in this playoffs. It's like you get Zubac, you put Zubac in a situation, pick and roll, that opposing guard is gonna kill you. But it's like if you don't have him, you're missing out on the size, and a lot of times in a situation like with Ayton, you're gonna have to double team, and that's just gonna cause a problem because you're leaving guys open.
Yeah, like you said, if you got Zubac pick and roll, Chris Paul gonna have a field day. But I think they probably would end up going with playing Batum, but then, whoever's guarding Ayton is going to get destroyed in the paint. But defensively, that would at least have to bring Ayton out, because everybody at that point is a 3-point threat.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, see who they're gonna play against. But yeah, the Suns, amazing team.
So let's say, even if the Nets just all became healthy, right? Mm-hmm. And they it so happened a situation where it's the Nets and the Suns. How do you see that going in a 7-game series? Who you got in that matchup?
In that matchup, I don't think it would be a walkthrough, but I would take the Nets. I just think their firepower offensively is just gonna be too much. I remember there was a good game earlier this season where it was Nets at Suns. There was no KD, I believe. I think it was just Kyrie and Harden. And Nets ended up winning. Harden hit that game-sealing 3. But I just when those 3 guys are there, healthy, and when they're clicking, they're unstoppable. And then you also got someone like Joe Harris who can shoot out, shoot with the best of them. So I just feel like that would be too much for Suns to cover.